Hi, I'm Dolores Nolan. Thanks for tuning to Island View. From St. George to Tottenville, Island View is the TV source for news affecting your hometown. We air 4 times a week, every week on Channel 57. And you can look forward to a brand new show every Monday evening. Now, here's a look at what's on tonight's program.
Tonight's episode includes an Island View update on the ferry car ban controversy.
And Staten Islanders losing another choice in how they commute.
Hundreds of Staten Islanders turn out for Mayor Rudy Giuliani's town hall meeting at Newdorp High School.
It was to get to know your problems, work on them.
A spotlight on not your average Staten Island bowling league. All the members are blind.
Sometimes we think we have a good ball that winds up in the gutter.
And of course, your comments to our cameraman's questions. And an Islander with a beef.
That's the only thing I can say, and that's it.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back. We have a number of stories to get to this evening, but first up, our field reporter Mickey Burns and the Staten Island ferry car ban controversy.
It's been over 3 years since that fire that destroyed the Whitehall ferry terminal on the Manhattan side. As a result of that fire, the Department of Transportation decided to permanently ban the use of car ferries. This decision has been met with considerable opposition by both Staten Island political figures as well as thousands of commuting residents. Tonight we'll take a close look into this controversy.
The Staten Island Ferry is not only world famous, it also holds a special place in the history of our borough. Prior to the construction of the Verrazano Bridge in 1964, the ferry was our lifeline into Manhattan for both pedestrians and cars. In September of 1991, a fire destroyed the Whitehall terminal in Manhattan. Shortly after, the Department of Transportation announced plans to permanently ban cars on the ferry. The new terminal is being designed without provisions to accommodate cars, a decision that has many islanders up in arms.
It's not only disappointment, it's frustration. For many people, it's anger. The cars on the Staten Island Ferry have been a very important part of what the Staten Island Ferry was always about. And many of our islanders who are native Staten Islanders remember the days of that was the only way to get to Manhattan. The fact that the ferry terminal burned down, which was a tragedy for us, it gave us the opportunity to rebuild it in a way that we could benefit from how things are in the 90s and looking forward to the 21st century, but hopefully to be able to retain the history of the ferry.
Aside from history, the permanent ban of cars on the ferry also eliminates an alternative transportation route into Manhattan. For many, this decision makes little sense, especially when you consider that the Gowanus Expressway is about to undertake major reconstruction that will last 10 to 12 years.
The worst traffic disaster in our history will be when the Gowanus goes under construction. It will back up traffic forever. People will need to get to Manhattan. Most of the people who live here commute to Manhattan every day. And I think that just in a long term, I mean, the ferry terminal is something that we, obviously we will have into our history too. And I think that, from the point of view of the people who have to use automobiles, I mean, I'm sure every Staten Islander would love to know they can leave their car home and take transportation at the end of the corner of their block and get to work in a convenient and efficient way. We would do that, but we don't have that choice, and that's what this is about. This is really going to result in Staten Islanders losing another choice in how they commute and how they transport themselves and their families into Manhattan.
Is this another example of Staten Islanders getting the short end of the stick?
Well, that's obviously what people are feeling, and that's the people who are calling me and writing to me are saying that once again Staten Island is getting shafted. My discussions with DOT have, they say absolutely not. It's not about money. It's not about, taking Staten Island and ignoring their concerns. They see this as being a long-term, wonderful design plan. What I'm attempting to do to let them know is that, we shouldn't just worry about the aesthetics of this development, but yet we should make sure that we are really satisfying the needs of the people who use it.
The Department of Transportation notes that banning cars will eliminate the dangerous mix of pedestrian and vehicle traffic that occur when unloading. It also would free up more parking spots at the St. George terminal, while also lowering car emissions in Lower Manhattan. According to State Assemblyman Eric Vitaliano, the car ban is not the answer.
There has been a decision that we ought to begin tying knots around the borough of Manhattan to deny every access point. And this is a clear example of where sometimes the exception proves the rule. So if you want to minimize the movement of traffic, if you want to minimize the creation of auto pollution emissions, maybe you should make it more difficult to come into Manhattan. But you shouldn't make it more difficult by eliminating one of the sources that brings vehicles into Manhattan without their engines running. And that's effectively what has taken place here.
We'll continue that piece along with further developments later on in the show. After this short break, a report on Mayor Giuliani's town hall meeting at New Dorp High School and much more, so stay with us.
Welcome back to Island View. This week's Spotlight features an ordinary sport with some extraordinary players.
Spotlight on the Staten Island Blind Bowlers League.
Bowling has always been one of America's favorite sports. Most people have played the game at one time or another. But if you really want to appreciate what you're about to see, next time you're out bowling, try playing a game blindfolded.
In essence, that's exactly what the members of the Staten Island Blind Bowlers League do every Monday night at Sunset Lanes in New Springville. These bowlers use a keen sense of imagination and memory in place of sight. They also bring a fresh enthusiasm to the game and seem to enjoy every frame as if it was a gift. Blind bowling president Chuck Graham formed the league over 16 years ago. His goals for members are the same today as they were back in 1978.
Our goals are to get people to come out to bowl, to enjoy themselves, to see what competition is bowling against each other, to do it all in fun. You know, we give prizes at the end of the year. We have a bowling dinner, and everybody enjoys themselves. It's not that, and everybody gets a prize. Everybody gets something.
Chuck lost his sight to an accident when he was 18 years old. Today he leads the blind bowlers by example, and his enthusiasm is contagious. I asked Chuck what some of the keys were in mastering the art of blind bowling.
Well, we have a guide rail. We have beautiful volunteers that pull pins for us. Let us know if we drop the ball or dropped our shoulders. They coach a little once in a while, because sometimes, you know, I don't care what bowler you are, once in a while you go a little erratical. You might drop your shoulder. But we have beautiful volunteers that tell us what pins are up. They keep the score for us. We also keep our own score in our head to make sure we keep them straight, you know.
One of the youngest bowlers is 21-year-old Sheila Jackson, a blind Park Hill resident who is still learning how to throw and where the pins are. Sheila learned the game with the help of a diagram using buttons to represent the pins. This has made it easier for Sheila to visualize the layout.
Sheila, how much fun do you have coming here bowling?
A lot of fun.
And what is the most rewarding part of being here?
Enjoying myself. Yeah.
How about bowling spares and strikes?
I get excited every time I do that.
Vinny Grieco, who lost his sight to diabetes 7 years ago, is one of the league's top bowlers. His best score since joining the league is 174, a score most bowlers with perfect sight would be proud of.
How do you know when you throw a good ball?
I try to listen in the background.
I noticed that at the reaction by the sound of the wood, you kind of know what kind of ball you roll.
Yeah, we basically know what we left standing. If we left 2 or 3 pins.
Right, as soon as it leaves your hand, you mostly know.
Most of the time. Not all the time. Sometimes we think we have a good ball that winds up in the gutter. So it's a lot of guesswork.
Well, do you have any goals as far as a bowler in this league?
Just to do the best I can.
At most bowling alleys across America, success is measured in spares and strikes. Not here. The success of this program is measured by the smiles on the faces of its participants. For Island View, I'm Mickey Burns.
That's pretty impressive. Last week, Mayor Rudy Giuliani held yet another in a series of town hall meetings, this time in Staten Island.
Close to 1,000 concerned citizens packed Newdorp High School for Mayor Giuliani's first Staten Island Town Hall meeting. Over the 2-hour get-together, the mayor fielded dozens of questions from over 30 individuals who waited their turn to speak. Unfortunately, the general perception was that many who got their chance repeated the questions of those before them. Afterwards, our reporter Mickey Burns asked the mayor to comment on this.
Look, you give people a chance. I tried to persuade people not to ask redundant questions, but I wasn't going to cut them off either. This is their forum, and so some people have to be more patient. If some people want to repeat questions, that's because they believe I guess they're the most important questions. The one they kept repeating the most was about schools, and schools is a somewhat more important issue than the others. I thought when it was asked the fourth time that I could persuade the woman not to ask that question, but she wanted to go ahead with it, and it is my rule at a forum that I let a person ask the question that they want to ask.
The question of crowded schools and inefficient use of funds by the Board of Ed will most likely continue to be a point of frustration for everyone, including the mayor.
The fact is that the mayor does not control the Board of Education. The Board of Education and the Chancellor say they are independent of the mayor. You elected me. I think I should be able to control the budget of the Board of Education. I can...
The mayor continued by offering this strong suggestion on how to set things straight.
Now, there's only one way in which you can change that. You've got to dramatically cut that overhead. But I will keep fighting for that, and I'll keep pushing it, because I realize that's the only way in which to straighten out this system so that the money that comes out of your taxes ends up getting to the classroom and the schoolroom. We should virtually dismantle that overhead that stands between the dollars and the classroom and the school. And that's about the best way I can explain it to you.
Another hot topic of the evening was the escalation of violent crime.
Mr. Mayor, we need some help. We are afraid, we are tired of living like this. We need to help, and we're asking you today, what are you going to do to help us, sir?
What I'm going to do is to continue to increase the size of the New York City Police Department, so that you have more police officers, and so that the police department has more police officers available to put into the community. I'm also going to do a lot of other things to try to reduce the amount of time that police officers have to take in doing arraignments. They shouldn't have to take 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. It should take 2 or 3 hours. That's what it takes in most other cities. But what you're looking for is what we are trying to provide for you. More cops, more physically present, and finally, and maybe most importantly, motivated to protect you. That's an important part of it also. It requires my willingness to support the police when they take action to protect you. And I think people know that I'm willing to do that.
On a final note, the mayor detailed his 3 priorities.
I have to produce a safer city. I have to produce a city in which we reduce crime and people feel safer walking around the city. Number 2, I have to produce a city in which we begin to turn around our school system so that the money that I'm talking about gets to the classroom and the schoolroom, and teachers can then do their job of educating people better. And then number three, I have to revive the private economy, because our hope to have enough money to do the things that we would like to do doesn't come from government spending more money. It actually comes from government lifting some of the burdens that have been put on businesses that crush them, so that you have less chance of a job when you get out of school than maybe you had 5 or 10 years ago. I got to turn that part around.
Whether or not you got the opportunity to voice your concerns to the mayor, we want to hear your story. Call us. We will give your story the attention it deserves. In our next segment, you get the opportunity to speak your mind in What's Your Beef?
My beef is that the Rosebank post office parking lot has to be open to the people. I mean, this is a convenience for the people to get their mail through, and if they continue to leave that parking lot closed, the convenience store is going to have problems. They're not going to do any business because all the people are going to be in a post office, you know. And not only that, they're creating more problems. Like I hate to repeat myself, but the sidewalk, the parking on the sidewalk, I mean, people will be jetting out of the post office, going into the cars and everything, and they're parking illegally, you know. And not only that, you have a firehouse up here, you know, right across Highland Boulevard, and if there's a fire and everything, with all these cars double parked on there, how's the fire engine going to get through? So before something detrimental happens, they're going to have to open up that parking lot behind the post office. That's the only thing I can say, and that's it.
Remember, What's Your Beef helps us decide on a story for a future show. When we return, a thought-provoking question, Alan King visits the island, and much more. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Island View. Each week, our camera crew hits the streets and asks you a thought-provoking question.
Howard Stern running for governor? I think it would be a good change.
Do you think he'll win?
I don't know if he'll win, but I definitely get a lot more to vote than people think.
You'll vote for him? Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Why?
I think the death penalty should be reinstated.
Honestly, I think it's weird, but I think he'll make it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Vote for him?
Yeah, I would. But I'm the type of person, I'm sick in the head myself too, so I would vote for him.
No, absolutely not.
Start out
absolutely not. I think he's a big asshole.
I think it's pretty cool in a way, because it's a celebrity, you know? Don't have that many celebrities running for governor. It'll be different. So he's only going to be in there for a little while anyway, you know?
So you'll vote for him?
Yeah, I'll vote for him. The hell is something different, you know?
Why would I vote for him? Because he's controversial. He says what he feels, you know? So I think I would vote for him. At least I would. He's not someone that, he speaks his mind. That's all I would say. He's honest. I think he's honest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Veteran comic Alan King visited our island last week to promote his new line of clothing called China Wear.
Last week, shoppers at the Staten Island Mall got a taste of a new line of apparel, part of the J.C. Penney grand opening. Alan King started off the half-hour fashion show featuring his China Wear collection and what he does best.
I look great for my age. You don't look too bad yourself, an old girl. Anyway, I'm glad you all came out, and let me explain. We're going to be here for a bit. We're going to show you our line, China Wear. I happen to be a principal in the company. You don't think I'd be here for nothing, do you? I want you to know that every garment that's sold, every garment that you see, that you buy, I get a penny. So I'll never live long enough to get even with this company.
The collection consisted of knit tops with embroidery, shorts with drawstring pull, and button-down tops, ready for the long-awaited spring and summer weather. Alan King took time to answer questions in between the fashion run.
Yes, you have a question? Excuse me. Your name is King? Isn't that nice? What was it before you changed it?
After the show, Alan King signed autographs, and I asked him what he thought of Staten Island.
Yeah, well, I love being in Staten Island, actually. I haven't been here in a while. I guess that's one of the problems you're having. But I worked here when I was a kid, a long time ago. It was a very famous nightclub. They called the Miami Club. And it's been a long time.
That Alan King, ain't he something? In a moment, when we continue, the Ferry car ban controversy. But first this.
Island View is brought to you in part by the law firm of DeSantis and Spinelli,
Professional, courteous, capable, and thorough. The law firm of DeSantis and Spinelli, 983-7400. Plate Man. Why stand in another tedious DMV line? Save the time, the travel, and the wait. Call Plate Man at 667-4746. David E. Cohen CPA. Give your tax troubles to a friend. David E. Cohen. The only number you need to punch for taxes. 727-5697. The Staten Island Visual Business Directory. Have your company showcased on TV every day of the year for less than $1 a day. Call 727-3777.
Now let's go to part 2 of our ferry car ban coverage.
According to the Department of Transportation, islanders should not view the car ban as a service cut, but rather as a service enhancement. Many islanders feel, however, that car ferries are a major alternative, that once we lose, we'll never get back.
I think cars should be banned from the ferry, at least during the weekdays. Maybe on the weekends they should let them go on, but commuting is bad enough, and with cars it would just make the matters worse.
Cars should be able to use the ferry. It's another means of transportation to Manhattan. Now with the Gowanus being under heavy construction, there certainly is a need for alternative methods of transportation, and that would be one.
Another factor lost in this controversy is that for many islanders, having the choice to travel by car on the ferries has always been part of the Staten Island experience.
We've all dodged, cars. I mean, we all played dodge-em cars coming off the ferry boat. As a commuter for 20 years, I always rode downstairs, and, you're always into mingle. So that's part of the Staten Island commuting experience, too. And I can understand why someone from another borough looking at that experience says, well, why would you want to mix cars with people? Well, I think if you see it from our side of the river, you begin to understand why that is an attractive option. And I got to tell you, there are many a snowy night where I've opted for the Staten Island ferry rather than a treacherous route through Brooklyn on the Gowanus, and that option is now being foreclosed.
Just when things look their gloomiest for the future of car ferries, Mayor Giuliani at his recent Island Town Hall meeting, to the amazement of everyone, began the night's festivities by having Borough President Guy Molinari read the following statement.
This would revive a transportation practice that had been discontinued in 1991 due to the devastating fire that occurred at the Whitehall Ferry Terminal on September 8th of that year. It has been a long time since cars have been allowed on the Staten Island Ferry, said Mayor Giuliani, and it has been a long time in coming that cars be reinstituted on the ferry. Approximately 1,000 cars use the ferry service each day while it was allowed, and I'm sure that we'll have approximately 1,000 ferry-bound carpools operating when service will finally be restored. While the timetable is contingent on several factors, including the reconstruction of the Whitehall ferry slip, the setting of the fare structure, and others, the mayor prioritized the plan as one he will expedite for reasons of revenue and needed service. So, Rudy, thank you very, very much.
With Mayor Giuliani's recent support for the return of car ferries, it would seem that Staten Islanders now have an excellent chance of seeing this service restored. As a result of the mayor's efforts, over 1,000 cars a day may once again have an alternative route into Manhattan. And that's good news for Staten Islanders. For Island View, I'm Mickey Burns.
Well, with the mayor's support, it looks like cars again on the ferry.
Not necessarily, although this is great news for the borough president, who's had the ferry car ban issue at the top of his agenda for quite some time. In a letter from Mayor Giuliani to the people of Staten Island, he mentions that the reinstatement of car ferries is contingent upon several factors, and one of those is the reconstruction of the Whitehall ferry slip, and that's a big budgetary question. So I think the jury's still out.
Oh, so it's not going to be as soon as we would like.
That's another question. There is no timetable set at the present time.
Well, thank you, Mickey.
You're welcome.
Well, that just about wraps up another edition of Island View. If you've enjoyed the show, we hope you remind your friends and neighbors to watch every week. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so get your pens ready. Our phone number and address appear after the credits. For Island View, good night, and we'll see you next week.